Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is brought to you by Citrine Informatics in partnership with AZO Network. Today's webinar is titled Ready to Roll, How Huntsman is Rolling Out and Capturing Value from AI. A big thank you to the team at Citrine Informatics for making this event possible. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes, but before we do, let me introduce today's wonderful speakers and explain a little bit about the format of today's webinar. Today's webinar will run as two parts, an interview and then an audience Q&A session. Hannah Mellier, Head of Marketing at Citrine, will be interviewing David Cranfill, Technology and Innovation Director for Polyurethanes at Huntsman. David joined Huntsman in 2021 as the Technology and Innovation Director for the Polyurethanes division. Cranfill is responsible for aligning current and future innovations with primary business objectives for product development to help deliver differentiated solutions to the market. Cranfill is a member of the Americas leadership team and is located in Woodlands, Texas. A big welcome to you both today. Before getting started, we have a few points about how to get the most out of your experience today. Firstly, the event is being recorded and we will share the on-demand link with you within the next 24 hours. So if you enjoy what you see or have a colleague or peer who may benefit from seeing the content as well, please do share that recording with them when you get that email. Refreshing your browser normally resolves technical issues. But if this doesn't work, send a message using the Q&A box and our backend team will get you back up and running as soon as possible. As I mentioned, there will be a Q&A session following the interview, so please send those questions in at any time and we'll get to as many of them as possible. A quick note that if you are watching this webinar back on demand, then you can still ask your questions, but you will receive an answer via email. Now, let's get things started with Hannah and David. Over to you.
Danielle, and thank you very much, David, for being here and being willing to answer questions and talk about your experience. How about we start off by simply, you could introduce Huntsman and your position at Huntsman and what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So Huntsman is a multinational specialty chemical company. It's comprised of three core divisions: advanced materials, performance products, and then the division I work in, polyurethanes. Within polyurethanes, we're a global leader in MDI-based polyurethane solutions. Materials are used for rigid and flexible foam applications, thermoplastic urethanes, coatings, adhesives, elastomers. And my role, I'm the Technology and Innovation Director, responsible for new product development, innovation within the polyurethanes division in the Americas.
Great, thanks, David. And I understand that the first AI project that you did within Huntsman, within the Huntsman Building Solutions. Can you tell me a little bit about that project and what its aims were?
Yeah, so our Huntsman Building Solutions team primarily focuses on spray foam insulation applications. And within that group, we had a desire. We were working on new projects where we were trying to improve the fire performance of some systems being offered. And what we wanted to do was to use the AI tool to help us accelerate that development. So in a typical process, or what we were doing historically, was a scientist would, obviously have a hypothesis. They go into the lab, they make some samples, they do some testing, they get some data, then they would go and then maybe actually spray apply that material, get some samples, get some more data, get the results, analyze the results, and then decide the next steps. And that was a very sequential process. And especially for this application related to fire performance, as part of that, it required sending doing a lot of fire performance tests, including even sending materials out for external testing. So it was a very sequential process with a lot of testing involved. And we were really looking for ways to try to speed that up. And that's why we got interested in exploring what AI machine learning tools could benefit. And we were really interested to see how it could help us get to a starting formulation quicker, and then also help us predict some of these fire tests better. So overall, we could have a shorter development time with especially lower costs, including fewer external fire tests that we would have to conduct.
Yeah, I think we've got quite a few customers where they have some kind of compliance test at the end that's both time consuming, because you have to do it externally, but also very expensive. And so being able to cut those down and make it less risky by having more information earlier on in the research pipeline obviously has its benefits. And how was that project? Was it successful? How quickly can you now create a starter formulation, and has it been able to reduce the number of fire tests?
Yeah, it was successful. I mean, obviously with any new tool or any new process, that there's always a learning curve, for us internally, understanding how to utilize the tool and so forth. But yeah, in this project in particular, we found that it was cutting back on our development time by about 30%, and we had a significant reduction in the amount of external testing that we had to do as well, and that's even with, I would say, our initial learning curve with the tool as well. So we've been very happy with the results so far. Now, I think it is also good to clarify, what we consider definition of success.
Yeah.
And for us, our intention was to have a tool that would hopefully allow formulators to get to a starting point quicker, maybe help them see connections that they wouldn't automatically see themselves, and then also obviously reduce the overall amount of testing that we had to do and lower costs. And I think with that, it was very successful. What I always try to caution people, though, is it's still a tool. This isn't something that is intended to take the chemist or formulator out of the loop. This is not something that is going to be a marketing person can just type in some performance attributes of what they want, and it spits out a formula, and you instantly go to production. That's not the case, and that was not our expectation either.
No, and that's certainly not what we've seen across our customers. We're not selling a magic box that can replace R&D people. It's rather a tool that empowers them. In particular, you mentioned being able to see connections more clearly, and I think that's an area that gets our customers quite excited, because they enjoy using the platform and seeing those connections that they perhaps hadn't figured out before.
Yeah, I think they say maybe a really good scientist can consider maybe 3 to 5 variables at a time and kind of normal evaluations. I think in this system, we got up to, I think, close to 30 different variables that wow. are being examined. So it is a way to hopefully find some of those unobvious connections a little bit quicker in the process.
Yeah. So is there anything about how you did the project that you think made it successful?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is you have to pick a project that's actually important to the company. You know, it has to be something that I would say you're already working on, that you've already determined that there's value in solving that problem. I think that's the first step. If you try to pick a hobby project that the company's not really interested in or isn't really going to bring a lot of value, but you just want to try use it to see what the platform can do, I would say that's not a recipe for success. You know, make it an important project that you are assigning, you know, a scientist to solve that problem and provide the tool to assist. So I would say that's the first thing. The second thing is, you know, had a really good close partnership and relationship between our Huntsman team and the Citrine team. So on the Huntsman side, you know, we clearly identified, you know, a project leader, an early adopter, you know, whatever you want to call it, but somebody that we could use as kind of the spearhead within our team to understand how the tool worked, have that close relationship with Citrine, and then use that individual to really help with the training and spreading the message throughout the extended Huntsman team. I think that's a better way than instantly trying to train every scientist in your group on how to use the tool at the same time. I think it's better to get somebody that you can almost turn into a little bit more of a subject matter expert within your own team, and then use that resource as well to help expand out. The other thing that I would recommend is, you know, don't try to boil the ocean at the beginning. You know, sometimes it can be tempting when you're exploring potentially, you know, machine learning or AI type systems to go, you know, we want to put in the biggest problem possible, and we're going to get every single piece of data that our company has ever generated, and we're going to put it into a massive data lake, and then we're going to start a project. I would say from past experience, those usually aren't the recipes for success. If you have to spend months and months and months and months just kind of formulating your data lake, you're not going to gain traction quickly enough. So, and that's one of the things that really appealed to me about the Citrine platform, is because you didn't really need, you know, a huge exhaustive data lake to begin. But I would say just don't try to boil the ocean at the beginning.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, we've definitely seen a variety of approaches in the customers that we've got. And, you know, I think because people's impression of AI comes from ChatGPT, large language models, etc., they think that they need a lot of data to get started. But yeah, gathering that data together, getting it in a coherent manner, it literally takes years, and that delays the business value that you get from AI. Good. So, and I understand that you've kind of used the project at Huntsman Building Supplies as a lighthouse project to encourage other teams across Huntsman. And now they're actually asking you to get hold of Citrine, which is exciting.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very exciting. I mean, you know, once again, we kind of used the initial project with our Huntsman Building Solutions team as kind of the pilot project to help show that there is value here. You know, there can be a lot of hype in the environment right now with all things AI, machine learning, and rather than just instantly trying to push something across the entire organization, we did the pilot program with one group. We were able to learn more about the platform, generate some real world successes of how it did help implement or help accelerate one of our development projects. And with that, throughout that time period with the HBS team, I would communicate to my extended technical team, the associates at the other sites, hey, this is what this team's working on, this is what they're doing, this is what the results are. And, we kind of built interest throughout the larger team. And by highlighting that success, I actually got people like, when can we get access to the tool? We want to try to use that for our project. So it was a good way to try to build momentum internally. And then now this year we're in process of really extending that out through the larger technical team, and we've got multiple more projects now utilizing the platform.
That's great, and I think you've hit the nail on the head that you've said that you didn't want to impose it on the whole company, that you wanted to start small, show value, socialize it, get everyone's buy-in, because it's just like any other technology, isn't it? You have to go through a change management process and make people feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, and it's another thing that that I also tried to focus with the team as well, because there's almost a sense of fear as well, or there can be a sense of fear of when you tell people that you want to utilize an AI or machine learning tool. With everything that's going on in the greater world, a lot of people instantly think you're trying to eliminate my role. You're trying to bring in an AI tool to replace what I do. And part of doing the pilot program was also partly to show people that no, this isn't intended to replace the scientist, the formulator. That is always going to be needed. But it's hopefully providing another tool that allows you to be better at your job, potentially do it quicker, and also potentially make it a little bit easier as well. So that's the messaging and the intent that I've tried to stress to my team. I mean, everybody's fine using a calculator, to do math or Excel sheet. I mean, that's just a tool. They still need to have the knowledge of what they're doing and what they're interpreting, but it's quicker using that than making everybody do long division by hand with a paper and pencil. It's just one of the things that we've done to try to reassure people that this is really meant to enhance their job and not to eliminate it.
Yeah. And I think that's particularly the case in our world in materials and chemicals, because we're not going to have a whole data ocean. Data is expensive in our business. So therefore, what we need is the knowledge in the researchers' heads to accelerate the projects. And it's simply not the intention to replace the researchers. So how did you decide what to do next? So you're extending it to 6 or 8 other teams within Huntsman. How are you prioritizing projects and building the teams that are going to work on it?
Yeah, so the first thing that we went through was, one, identifying existing projects that we already had in our portfolio of items that we wanted to solve. We weren't necessarily creating new things to try to test with the platform. We wanted to take our existing real world projects and use the platform for it. So that was one of the criteria, making sure that it was going to be something that brought value to the business.
Yeah.
The other thing that we looked at when we were picking our next round of projects were since the first projects were really related to spray foam insulation application, we wanted to pick some applications that went into some different market segments,
Right. Yeah.
so that we could better understand, how the platform or tool could be modified for different applications. We also wanted to make sure that we were picking the right team members for this as well. As with anything, you mentioned it is a management of change.
Yeah.
And with any sort of management of change, you'll kind of have a distribution of adoption or acceptance within your workforce. And there will always probably be some people that are more on the early adopter side. And there could be some other people that are maybe on that other end that are a little bit more of a resistor. So we wanted to make sure that we were picking people for the teams that were eager to use the tool, wanted to learn about it, wanted to attempt it, and hopefully we can continue to use them as change agents with their peers as they continue to make progress on their projects. We also looked at expanding it to different regions or sites. So the HBS projects were based out of one of our sites, and we were really looking to, let's take this tool to people located in different countries and some of our different labs, so we can also continue to get more of a global experience as well on some projects.
Great. I think one of the nice things about the platform is that you can, use local units and local language about properties, but if they're the same thing, you can still join the data up in the background, so that the whole team can use the data that you put into the platform. So thinking about the governance of these projects, and are you setting up regular meetings? Have you set KPIs?
Yep. So Citrine actually has some very good best practices in place for that as well. So we have regular leadership and senior leadership governance meetings in place specifically on Citrine and how it's performing with these different projects. Now, obviously, with the individual projects as well, we have our routine governance process that's already in place for those. But yeah, we do. We have the structured leadership meetings, monthly touch bases with the Citrine team and myself, so we can review kind of how are the projects going, from our perspective, from Citrine's perspective, any obstacles, any roadblocks, anything that we need to course correct on. So overall, I think there's a very good level of engagement and support.
Great. And I know from the Citrine perspective, we really value those meetings. One of the things that we get out of them is your feedback, so on how we can improve the platform in the future. Sometimes there's excited messages internally after such a meeting where it's like, oh, there's a cool idea of how we can do something better.
Yeah.
So
it is, and it's a really good engagement between both sites. I mean, the Citrine team has done on-site training for the scientists. We've for some of our other team members, we've got another on-site training scheduled in just a couple of weeks. They have available office hours. They're easy to connect with and arrange meetings with. So there is a lot of really good collaboration back and forth. This isn't something where it's just, here's the tool, good luck.
Yeah.
There is a lot of active engagement between both parties. And and the other thing that I would recommend is it is good to have somebody in your own team that, maybe it's a data scientist in your team, or maybe somebody that has a little bit more of that acclimation. It's good to have somebody on our internal team that has a little bit more of that working knowledge that can help communicate with Citrine and also the internal team. Because the great thing about the platform is you don't have to be a data scientist to use it. The vast majority of the people on the team that we have using it are just my regular chemists, formulators, but it is good to have, still maybe somebody that you can consider a little bit more of a subject matter expert within your team that can help, with the training or if issues pop up and so forth. But the vast majority of the team are not data scientists. They are the chemists that that understand the market application that they're working on, which I think is useful. Most data scientists don't know anything about what makes a good spray foam, but we need the spray foam people developing the spray foam products.
Exactly, and I think one of the reasons that Citrine puts such a value on working hard to make the platform easy to use is precisely so that the product experts themselves can get in there and play around, adapt the model, add their knowledge to the model to accelerate progress. Good. So, any last things? So, imagine yourself back before you started this project. What would you have liked to have known then that you know now that would make you even more successful in rolling out AI?
Yeah, being more successful, I would say, well, obviously, I don't think Huntsman's unique in this position, but a lot of companies have lots of information stored in many different places. And yes, it would always be nice if we had that a little bit better structured, so that we could tap into it a little bit quicker. So obviously that could always be something that could lead to an improvement. The other thing that I would say, if I had to redo it over again, I would probably look to expand this out into a couple of different projects at the beginning as well. I mean, we took a very measured approach of let's do a pilot example and so forth. But in hindsight, seeing the success, I would say, okay, well, maybe we could have accelerated our overall transition a little bit more if, along with a spray foam project, if we would have picked maybe another market application project as well. But that's where we're at this point. But yeah, maybe we could have accelerated our journey a little bit quicker if we would have done that.
Yeah, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We actually recommend nowadays that you start with 3 projects.
Yeah.
And we try and, make progress on each of those 3 projects in the first 3 months in order to demonstrate, that it works.
Yeah, that's another great point. And that's another thing that I would advise people on, because especially from an R&D perspective, you might have a range of projects in your portfolio, and maybe some of them are a little bit more incremental improvement, and then maybe something else is completely a fundamentally new chemistry or technology, and that's going to be a multi-year type project. My recommendation when you're first starting off, try to pick projects where you think you can get results in a shorter period of time. I think it is important to be able to show yourselves and your business and your leadership teams that there can be value from the tool, because it is an investment you're making, and
Sure.
if you really just pick a project that's going to take extended multi-year development cycle, maybe not the best one to initially start with. I would say start with something that you can show results on within the year.
Yeah, I think it's really important, isn't it, to build that momentum, and to demonstrate to people that it works. I really liked your comment about not choosing a kind of hobby project as well at the beginning, because resources in terms of the experimenter's time, access to samples, access to equipment in order to run the experiments that are needed to make progress, is going to be less available if it's a kind of hobby project on the side. So choosing a project that is valuable to the company and able to make progress quickly will be good for building that momentum.
Yep.
Good. So thank you very much. And what I'd like to do now is to move to an open Q&A session with the attendees. I hope that you have put all sorts of questions in the Q&A, and I can already see some. So Stephen is asking, is Huntsman's focus with AI more about lower carbon recycled content formulations or about process optimization, or is there a core focal point?
Yeah, I mean, I would really say it's about formulation optimization. I would say in the projects that we've started so far, the intent wasn't specifically geared around carbon recycled content. That could be if that was the objective of the project, but that hasn't necessarily been what we were specifically trying to solve. Specifically with the spray foam application project, we were more interested in improving overall fire performance of the system as one of the main performance criteria that we were looking to improve. But you very well could use the tool if you were looking for more a sustainability aspect.
Yeah, and we have had other customers work on that area. So we've got customers who have specifically chosen and adapted plastics within medical devices to lower greenhouse gases. We've got other customers that are using it on changing the formulation and additives used in recycled plastics so that they can use more of the recyclate. And other customers looking at, bio-based feedstocks for plastics as well. Good. And then there's another question. I imagine traditional scientists might be cautious about AI unless it's integrated as a useful tool to guide and accelerate existing work. How important is it that the AI platform becomes very specific to Huntsman, i.e., it becomes a very personal model unique to your firm?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair point. I mean, if the scientist doesn't see this as bringing value to their job function, then they're going to be reluctant to use the tool. So that is one of the things that we're trying to show and gain confidence throughout the team, that this is a tool to help assist them. Now, the great thing is, about making it a little bit more specific for Huntsman is it's all your own data, on your own system. So, once we get more of a history of multiple projects and feeding more information into the model, the really powerful item in my mind will come within another year or two, because you're essentially institutionalizing the knowledge that you're generating in a way that can be easily accessed and used by your next generation of scientists or formulators coming into the team, because that data is all being re-entered and stored, and you now are essentially growing, I hate to say it, but almost that data lake as you progress with your information. So I think it can be a very powerful tool for short term, just to help the scientists with their individual projects. But I think this will also really help that next generation of scientists be able to come to starting formulations much quicker.
Yeah, that's something other customers have said as well. So some of the visualizations of how a material is made, or the feature impact plots that show the connections between the molecular features and the important properties, are used as a kind of training tool. So the expertise of your top experts is put into the model, put into the data, etc. And then other employees can come along and benefit from that knowledge. Good. So the next question was, how much time or resources did you have to provide into the project for it to be successful?
Yeah, really, we identified one key individual kind of to be our subject matter expert. So for the very first project, I would say it was probably a 4 to 5 month initial learning curve, and to really, get the platform up and running. But what we're seeing now is, because once again, you do have to do some learning on your side as well. But once we've done that, now as we are rolling this out to other people in the team who've never used the tool, but with our experience and so forth, we're seeing that, we're getting people up and running on the tool in new projects in really about a month. I mean, you do have to collect some initial data and so forth. You do have to train the people on how to use the tool, how to adjust the models and so forth. But we are finding it to be a quicker ramp up period with the new projects that we're starting.
Yeah. I would also say, from our point of view at Citrine, we're improving that as well. So I know that my colleagues have put a lot of work into embedding videos into the Help Scout in the platform to help people learn that way how to use the platform as well. So Anna is asking, in what form did you have your data before you started with Citrine? And how much work was it to get your data into the right format?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say probably like most companies, I would say we had data everywhere. It could be Excel sheets on people's computers. It could be lab notebooks. It could be Word documents. Really, I mean, we have data in a lot of different places. And once again, the thing that I liked about Citrine is you don't need a huge amount of data to get started. I think we were trying to have about 30 data points.
Yeah, that's all.
For initial project kickoffs. So the Citrine team will work with you. They'll help provide kind of the format of how the data should be structured to be able to essentially import it into the model. So they provide assistance and some structure with that. On average, I would say, especially for the new projects, it probably takes people 2 to 3 weeks to go through, find, collect, structure some of that starting data, and then start getting it into the model. So I would say, you know, and I don't know, maybe your data's already better formatted in your company, and it's easier to collect, but I would say you could probably think of, you know, 2 to 3 weeks to do that initial data collection.
Yeah.
Which to me is still far better than just spending months and months and months trying to collect every piece of data you have.
Yeah. And also, you know that the data that you're collecting is actually useful, so it's worth your time getting it, putting it into the right format. I think some of the projects that people do where they try and structure a data lake before even starting AI, they're often looking at really historical data. And if you're working on a cutting edge project, it might not actually be useful anymore, that data. So starting with a small amount of really relevant data is much more useful. So can you expand on the correlation AI provided in context with polyurethane FST performance? How does the FST data from AI differ than a multi-factor DOE, for instance?
Okay. I will attempt to answer the best I can. I would say when you first start out, your model may not be perfect. Okay. You know, because you are starting, or you can start with a relatively smaller data set. So at the beginning, it's important just to get it something entered, get some potential formulation candidates generated, and then go in the lab, run those top candidates, get the data, and then feed it back into the system. So it's really after you do that, you know, cycle a time or two, that I would say more the machine learning part takes over a little bit more, and you can get a lot better optimization of the results at that point. So I would say at that point you start seeing potentially better results than, you know, somebody could say, okay, we'll just go into Minitab and run a multi-factor DOE. That might kind of be how the start of the process somewhat is, but then it gets better. So overall, I would say we did see that progress in the spray foam application, and we did kind of see the model adapting to the data being fed into it, and generating better and better candidates as we went along.
Yeah. And you can see that the model is learning by looking at the feature importance as well. So the scientist will often see, yeah, now it's understood that this is important. That initial run of the model, so you put your 30 data points in, you create a model that frankly is not going to be very good at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because what the model does is it calculates its own uncertainty of predictions, and it will then tell you which parts of your search space it's uncertain about, and tell you to go and run experiments there. So then you can do a targeted experiments on the areas that are highly uncertain, feed that data back in, and that improves the model, you know, really well. Whereas with standard DOE, each experiment that you do is equally likely to succeed or to fail, you don't have an understanding of the uncertainty. And so with DOE, it's kind of pure kind of stats, whereas with machine learning, because of that extra information that you get from uncertainty quantification, that's what makes it quicker. Mm-hmm. So last question, what is the optimum number of variables based on Huntsman experience on the formulation project?
I would say the optimal number is dependent on what you're trying to do with your system. I mean, I think for this project in particular, I think we got it up to over 30 variables. I think, I mean, the team's constantly looking at ways to improve it, but we got up to a pretty significant number from our perspective. Now that could change depending on exactly what you're trying to do, but I think it's capable of doing quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's again why it's cuts down the number of experiments compared to DOE, is because there's so many different variables when it comes to formulations, and being able to vary, all of the processing parameters, all of the different ingredients, how much of each ingredient, etc., just adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much for your answering all of our questions, and over to you, Danielle.
Yes, thank you, Hannah, and thank you, David, for your insightful conversation. And likewise, thank you to everyone for submitting their questions today. Now, if you think of a question at a later date, or you're watching this webinar back on demand, then just know that you can still ask your questions, but you will receive an answer by email. Before you leave us today, just a gentle reminder that we do have the handouts available, so do download those before you go. When the webinar ends, you'll also have the opportunity to contribute your feedback and let us know which other webinars you would like to see in the near future. So please do let us know. And yeah, all that's left to say is thank you so much for attending. Thank you to Hannah and David, and hopefully we'll see you for the next webinar. Bye.
Bye, everyone.